Welcome to another day in hell, and it's only getting worse. It's not going to get better.
Come on, California is a great place.
It's not going to get better. Not going to get better. And I think people know that. And
what about when we focus on the real enemy, China, finally?
Yeah. The people in charge are maniacs. The people in charge are not the adults in the room. The people in charge are the mafia, right? And you know how the mafia thinks that they're the grown-ups in the room. That's just what anybody would do if they were in charge. This is what men do.
Men of honor.
This is what the people who are in charge of our country think, right? And so here's a perfect example. So I don't know if you watched the State of the Union. It was hard to watch.
Oh boy.
It was an old demented man hopped up on some kind of drugs.
Yeah.
And he was screaming most of the time. And there was agreement on most stuff from both sides of the aisle, and especially the worst stuff. That's the great. My favorite thing is they agree on the worst things. And you want to know what they agree on? They agree on this. Here's his main thing. This is the thing he leads with. This is the thing he wants. Here we go.
Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine,
this was the first thing
I assure you he...
What?
This is the first thing he brought up?
This is the first thing he brought up.
At the State of the Union. Is this State of a...
Well, he started... First he called Trump Hitler, compared that, and 1941 and all this stuff.
Oh, okay. But he didn't... Because State of the Union, your opening lines about Ukraine, that's like...
This is his opening salvo is about Ukraine.
Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
So before I was born, they were doing this. This is called the domino theory.
Yeah.
This is that if we don't stop communism in South Vietnam, it's going to then spread all over Southeast Asia, all the way. It's going to come here. And so we got to stop it there. If we have to do everything we can to stop it there. And so that's why we did... through 4 different presidents, they lied to us about Vietnam. And they got somewhere around 60,000 soldiers killed and how many countless maimed. And so they're doing it again. So this is what they always do.
Oh, by the way, Vietnam won the war, was stayed communist. They're doing fine today. You never hear any problems about Vietnam. They've actually been great ever since we had no influence over them.
And so that's right. And so here they are doing it again. So here, this is called and the United States' interest in Ukraine, in actuality, is nothing. There's no interest for the American people in Ukraine. Ukraine started this war, provoked it. They were shelling and killing thousands and thousands and thousands of people in the Donbass, and Putin invaded to stop that war, not start a war. So this is just like Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. This is just like Libya. This is just like Saddam Assad is gassing his own people. This is just like 20 years in Afghanistan. Nobody even knew who the bad guys were. The important thing isn't to win the war, it's to keep it ongoing. This is why they allowed Joe Biden to pull out of Afghanistan, because they had this war ready. And so Joe Biden is a psychopath. These people are all sociopaths and psychopaths. Mike Johnson, same thing.
Yeah.
These people they agree on the worst ideas.
Well, when they're conquering the world, Jimmy, it's the great game. They call it the game. You know, you play in the game. The great game is the official title that all these people learn about. As soon as like somebody does anything to their power structure, it's all of a sudden morals and like
norms,
the soul and norms and freedoms, and not a game. This is not a game.
So this is the thing that Joe Biden really wants to do, is fund the Ukraine war. Why? Because that's what the billionaires who control him really want to do. They're not going to do anything for you. They're not going to clean up homelessness. They're not going to take that. They got another $60 billion in the chamber ready to be shot out of a cannon into the oligarchs' pockets in Ukraine, because it's not helping regular people.
It's not to win the war.
And it's not to win the war. It's that you can't win this war.
It's pricier to do your illegal operations during this war, I imagine. So it's probably bigger payoffs you got to do.
And so they're not going to shoot $60 billion at America. $60 billion. You know, it costs like $1 billion to build a new sports stadium. Imagine if all the jobs that would be created if in 60 of the biggest cities in America, they decided to build $1 billion sports stadium. Imagine all the jobs that would be created.
Sorry.
Imagine if they decided to build $60 billion worth of community centers or $60 billion worth of homes to put homeless people. And because let's remember, 40% of homeless people actually have jobs. Imagine if they put $60 billion into mental health facilities. So you wouldn't have deranged people on drugs running wild on the streets. Imagine if they put $60 billion into that just once, just one time. Imagine if they did that just one time. They'll never do that. He doesn't even bring it up. It didn't even get brought up what to do about homeless people. It didn't even get brought up. It didn't even get brought up what to do about when Ronald Reagan decided to close all the mental hospitals and explode the homeless population with the mentally ill, which is what happened in the 80s. There wasn't a homeless problem before then. They used to call them bums.
Hobos. You could ride the rails.
Yeah, and then after Reagan, it was a real problem because it was mentally ill people and they were everywhere. And now it's working people who are one illness away from being homeless. And he has this and abortion. So I'll play this and then we'll talk about it. Hold on. Let me play it again.
Russia's on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not.
And guess what? Why doesn't Europe do something? If that's the case, which it's not. Putin has no interest in going anywhere else.
I also don't care if he didn't.
And let's say he did. Isn't that Europe's problem?
Yeah.
Europe can't take care of this problem? Germany and the UK and France and every other goddamn country over there.
How many Israels do we have?
What, isn't there a NATO? Why can't NATO? Why does the United States have to fund this unilaterally? But this doesn't make, again, even if I take your premise, which I don't. Nobody goes, hey, what the fuck is Europe doing? Because Europe knows this is bullshit. That's my theory. They know this is bullshit. They know the United States blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, which is cratering their economy and is making Germans and Germany, which is supposed to be the economic engine of Europe, pay 4 times the rate for energy that they were before. But they tell you that Putin and Russia blew up their own pipeline.
Yeah, they did. Why
because they know you're stupid, and they know if you believe what they told you about COVID, and what they told you about Russiagate, and what they told you about Iraq and Syria and Libya and the banking crisis, if you believe that stuff, you'll believe anything. And they do. People do believe it.
Yeah. Why would I not trust their word? The people that have never once told me the truth one time that I can think of in my life.
So if you're for censorship and you call yourself a Democrat, this is nothing but misinformation. This is nothing but lies. This should be censored by your standards. I don't want anything censored, but this should be. But if you're for censorship, this is nothing but lies and misinformation.
Man, what cocktail is he on to be able to speak this?
That's
clearly?
right.
Yeah.
And he's with them. He's with them.
Ukraine can stop Putin.
What?
Now that's a lie. Ukraine cannot stop Putin.
You just said he can't.
Ukraine is now. They're now putting mentally challenged people, conscripting them into the military and putting them on the front lines to die.
Yeah.
Do we show you the picture of the average age of a Ukraine fighter? Because they've wiped out all the rest of them.
It's 50 now, Jimmy. It was 43 at the time of that. It's now 50.
It's now 50.
It's now 50. Oh my God.
And they lie to you. They tell you only 36,000 Ukrainians have been killed. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers have been slaughtered.
And maimed for life, though. You got get a price to 500,000 or more when you think of the
So
injuries.
that's a lie. Ukraine cannot stop Russia. That's not happening. Everyone knows that. Except you, the morons who watch cable news and read the New York Times and the Washington Post. That's where you get your news from. And that's why you believe that.
Jimmy, if Joe Biden were any older and dumber, he could be drafted to the front lines in Ukraine.
In Ukraine, that's so funny.
Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine.
That is not true. And what they're doing is saber rattling with the nuclear power. These guys want a nuclear war. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because then they could justify war forever. They don't have to worry about getting the $60 billion. They don't have to lie. They don't have to twist. They just go nuclear war.
Well, it's better we provoke him into that, because if we don't provoke him first, he'll just do the same thing to us.
That's right.
So we have to be 3 times as evil as we claim Putin is.
And provide the weapons that need to defend itself. My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away.
Whoa.
Well, why anyone in America gives a shit about the most corrupt country in the world, Ukraine?
Oh, because
who provoked this war by endless shelling of the Donbass, turned down 2 peace accords, the Minsk Accords. They didn't abide by it, and then there was a peace deal on the table a month after the war started that Putin was willing to accept. Ukraine advisors were all willing to accept. Their negotiators said they would accept it. Who didn't? Zelensky. Because NATO told him, if you take it, we're going to kill you. And so here we are 2 years later with a war. These are sociopaths. This is sociopath. And the people who comment on this on cable news are also sociopaths.
It's their job. It's how you get hired. You can't keep the job.
If they had a conscience and integrity, they wouldn't be doing that job.
Look at them all applauding. If that doesn't make you way more upset than stupid fucking January 6th, you are a moron.
He didn't lead with, hey, we got to really tackle the economic problems of the Americans. People are really hurting in this country. 90% of Americans have medical debt. We got to fix that. People can't afford their medicine. We got to fix that. None of he didn't lead. This is what he leads with. And this is what they all agree on. Why? Because they're all corrupt. Because your government is more corrupt than you can believe. You think they're in there doing the bidding of workers and senior citizens and students? They're in there doing the bidding of the handful of billionaires that actually run this world.
Look at that ocean of gray pubed animals.
You know how Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post here in the United States and Amazon? I did a podcast yesterday from Norway. He owns the media in Norway. Did you know that?
Nice.
Did you know that? One of the richest billionaires in the world.
Does Norway know?
So this is international. These billionaires are international. The WEF. They have filled all the cabinets with their minions. You don't live in a democracy. You live in an oligarchy. And this speech almost made me puke. It's so disgusting. The 2 big things Biden really excited about: war with Russia and abortion. Those are his 2 big things.
I mean,
gonna have an abortion in every garage.
Finally, how are you gonna get these incels to fuck and make the kids to abort? That's what I don't get.
We will not bow down. I will not bow down.
And so this is the culmination of Russiagate, which I tried to tell those fucking blockhead moron assholes at the Young Turks.
Hey, come on.
For 4 straight years. I tried to tell them, when you repeat CIA talking points and you trash Julian Assange, this is leading to a war with Russia, and this is the culmination of it. This is it. You got it. You get your war with Russia. That's what they always wanted. That's what Russiagate, that's what this is all leading to. And here we are. The biggest blood-soaked warmonger around, sitting there screaming, we're gonna go after Russia.
How do people like this educated in just history, like, I understand when I talk to some moron friend of mine that doesn't know anything about anything. These are the went to the best schools. And these people here saying domino theory. They're
because they're sociopaths.
Yeah.
You think
doesn't it strike you as ironic that Oh, look at this ghoul.
They're all ghouls.
Yeah.
So I watched the rest of it on 1.75 speed.
That was painful.
And it was just painful. I just couldn't. It was just one bullshit lie after another bullshit lie after another bullshit lie. And there's no relief in it for the American people. Your lives are not going to get better. Your lives are only going to get worse. It's only going to get harder.
You know, the little bit I watched of it, the only thing that I really care about is healthcare. That's really the only thing that I care about.
Wow.
No wars and healthcare. And, you know, I have all my friends and their parents are aging and everybody is scrambling to care for their parents
That's right.
now. And there's, you know, look at all those elderly people in Congress right now. They have the best healthcare. In the meantime, they don't have a word to say about healthcare for our fathers and mothers. Nothing. Or
anybody. So his whole thing was promising them abortion rights. How about you promise them health care? Do you ever think about that? You ever try to promise Americans health care?
That's amazing.
They're going to promise you abortion. And that's the thing that any good Christian would do. That's what Jesus would do. The first thing he would do is not give you health care and a living wage. What Jesus would do is promise you that you could abort your baby. Hey, why don't you promise them a universal inclusive health care that includes reproductive health? How about that? No, abortion. That's it.
Most people don't want an abortion. They just have to get one because they can't afford to raise a goddamn kid on their own. That's the number one reason is if you could have health care with the kid, how many more? I love your two choices are the right wing. No, you have to have the baby and just be poor and try to work it out. I don't know. I don't care. And the other one is go ahead and kill all the babies. But either way, you're not getting health care. You're not getting any health care.
You're not getting health care from either of them. And let me disabuse you of the idea. People go, oh, after COVID, you still want the government to run health care? Did you think the government ran health care during COVID?
What in the fuck? Someone said that to you?
I say it all the time. Did you think government was running healthcare? Have you been sick? Do you think government runs your healthcare? You know who runs your healthcare is a capitalist that's in between you and your doctor.
I want Pfizer to just take the rest of it over.
I want to get the capitalist out of in between me and my doctor. And so, you know, my parents, I'm not on Medicare. My parents had Medicare. You know, when they went to their doctor, it wasn't a government doctor. It was the same doctor they went to their whole life. It's just the person paying the bill went from Blue Cross to Medicare. What's the most popular healthcare system in the country? Medicare. And people who claim that somehow government is going to run my health, at least I can vote them in or out. At least I can vote if I don't like. And by the way, they don't run the healthcare. The hospitals are still owned privately. My doctor is still a private doctor. It's just that when I go there, some of the bill doesn't get paid by Blue Cross, which they don't pay when they just don't feel like it. It goes to the government pays. It's not the government. So if you think that, you're being propagandized. You're being propagandized if that's what you think. And they don't talk about Medicare for all on MSNBC. If this is some big lefty, they don't want it on MSNBC. They don't want it on CNN either. Why? Because they're owned by big pharma and health insurance companies and billionaires. That's why. The only place you hear people advocating for Medicare for all is places like this.
You want the government to run the military? That's just like right-wing dipshit old talking points, usually for boomers from a while ago. Friends of mine will say that, and because they haven't thought of a new argument on that. That was settled science to a lot of right-wingers for a long time. That of course we want to keep pouring money into wars and not healthcare. Of course we want to do that. At this point, it's absurd. It's absurd. The money that they're going to give, they could have
Ukraine. Imagine if they took the money they're going to give Ukraine and Israel.
We could all have fake tits. Every man, woman, and child could have
everybody
fake tits.
Everybody could have housing.
And
everybody could have housing.
And then bigger ones put in. And then taken out again.
Everybody could have housing. You could have mental health hospitals for the mentally ill, and you could have treatment program hospitals for the people who are on drugs. You could clean up your streets, is what I'm telling you. Instead, we have two options: die, or we'll put you in prison. Those are the two options now in America. And Joe Biden doesn't, and they don't, these people don't give a shit.
I know.
And the people who cover them don't give a shit. And the people who donate to them and own them don't give a shit.
I don't like to talk about it, but my retirement plan is to commit a low level enough crime to get health care in my old age.
Yeah.
My favorite moron quote, which the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money to spend.
What do you call this?
That's the same problem as Ukraine. What a coincidence. The problem with Ukraine and socialism is you're running out of other people's money. Well, who'd have thought that that's a problem all through society somehow?
I'm putting a lot of my money, my retirement money, into precious metals, gold and silver. Why? Because lots of people I trust with money, Max Kaiser's one of them. He's a big Bitcoin guy, and he told me gold is a good hedge against inflation, and gold is a good hedge against the stock market. And so did Carol Roth said that. And then also, who's the guy who wrote the book from Maui, my friend? Why am I blanking on his name? Ed Dowd. So they all said this, so I'm with them. And so I'm putting that into this. And I decided to partner with our sponsor to do this, Colonial Metals Group. They're helping me set up a secure, self-directed IRA where I have access to my assets no matter what the stock market and no matter what the government's doing. So let a team of experts at Colonial Metals Group help you protect your family's future. We've put together a special offer for our audience. Get this offer. Listen to this. You click on the link in the description below or call a special 800 number and you'll receive a safe and up to $10,000 in free silver. Then the number to call is 888-910-1419. 888-910-1419 or go to colonialsmetalgroup.com/Jimmy-Dore-show. Hey, come see us live on tour in Los Angeles, Palm Springs, Stockholm, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Berlin, Copenhagen, Oslo, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Cortland, New York, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, right outside Pittsburgh, El Paso, and San Antonio, Texas. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.